Okay, so we're going to animate a walk cycle, something like this, very basic. Um, this is not using the graph editor or smoothing anything out. Again, this is building on the bouncing ball tutorial, assuming that you know very little about Blender's interface, um, animation, things like that. And so for me, I say the best way to learn is to finish things. A lot of times people will like pose it out or block out the animation, and then they don't like the way these blackouts work, and instead of refining it, they kill the entire animation. I feel like the best way to do it is to produce a lot of really generic animation pieces, and then come back and do it again from scratch when you have the energy. So, for instance, there's the contrapposto isn't there. There's a lot of things missing, but at least this will teach you the basics of a first pass of the interface, as well as give you the feeling and the power that you're actually animating something. So let's take a look at where you can actually get this model. Okay, so I'm at studio.blender.org, and I'll make sure to include this in the assignment link or the description of this video. But what's really cool is they have a bunch of these really free models. Um, Now, depending on the class, I should have the model embedded inside the learning management system. And if you're wondering, well, where are some of these models from? If you go to YouTube or if you go on YouTube and you go to Blender's website, they've had created animated shorts, beautiful, beautiful animated shorts using these characters. And so what's wonderful about Blender is they just sort of give them to you for free. I personally really like this Illy model. I thought she'd be a cool in between. I like the fanny pack. So all you have to do is click on it, and you have to click download. As I mentioned, I probably am giving you this model anyway if it's in the LMS, but you can click download. And what's really great is it's like completely free to use, and you can tweak it and all that other good stuff. Once it's downloaded, just double click the actual file, and then it'll open it up in Blender. So after you download it, this is also another character that was for free that we may be using later in class. Here's that Ellie walk, that simple blocked out one that I showed you. But you'll get this file here where it just says the girl's name Ellie. Go ahead and double click that. For me, once I double clicked it, it opened like this. A couple quick reviews. If you middle mouse into the area, like the character itself, you can rotate, you can zoom in and out by scrolling the wheel. And if you hold shift and middle mouse click, you can pan. If you're only using it 1 or 2 days a week, for some reason, for me, I jump between ZBrush and Maya and all these different applications. I kind of end up using more, I guess maybe I favor more Maya stuff where I'm holding Alt and middle mouse clicking or whatever, but Blender is my favorite program, to be honest with you. But anyway, so it'll screw up your ability to navigate the environment. All right, so here's our character. And you might be like, well, where do you start with like a walk cycle? I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to open up PureRef and with some animation, just basic poses that Richard Williams, who's an animator, had created to help guide people in his book, The Animator Survival Kit. All right, so let's take a look at that guide that I was telling you about. I actually own 2 or 3 physical copies of this book, so if you need one, please stop by my office. I'd be happy to lend it to you. You can get them pretty cheap now. I've actually seen them at half-price books now. I think maybe somebody who gave up on their animation dream sold the book, but it's a phenomenal resource. And I don't think you should give up on your dream, but there's a series of videos. You can actually find some of these videos on YouTube. But the kit is all of these videos, and there's also a book. There's like a book itself, a physical hard copy, as well as an ebook of this animation survival kit book. And it's beautiful. It goes through like how to do walks, flexibility. It's just such a good book. The other thing I want you to do is go to pureref.com and click on download. Now, this program here, what's nice about it is you can just copy and paste pictures from the web and you can use it as a resource. So if I bring up that Ellie model from the previous example, notice that PureRef sits right on top. So I can paste in different walk cycles, zombie walk cycles, things like that I find on the internet that I find interesting inside of here. So if I bring this back up, if you go to download at the top here, and you see Windows, if you have money, go ahead and donate, but you can type in custom here, double click it and just enter 0, and then you can get it for free and just download and install it. And then once you open it, you'll have something like this. Something else I tend to do is you'll see a mode here. I do always on top. And that way, when I switch between tabs, this thing is always there. Now, I'm going to just type in up here. I'm going to pause the video so you don't hear the clinking of my mechanical keyboard, but I'm just going to type in Richard Williams walk. All right, so you could see here that some people were nice enough to post some Richard Williams walk cycles. I think this one's pretty good, but it's missing the arms, but I like the leg positioning, so I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to copy this image, and this is right out of the book, and I'm going to paste that by just hitting Control V. And now I have this as a reference that I can move around my screen when I'm animating. This one's pretty good. It's got the arms in there, and what you can see here is this is actually frame 1, 4, and then this one is 7, and then this is 9. So this is 1/2 of the walk cycle. But once I show you this trick inside of Blender, you're going to only really have to animate half of the walk and then just fine tune it. So there's this one. That's a pretty good size. I might expand this as well, because you could always scroll your wheel in and out to zoom. And if you zoom out, you can also shrink this depending on your screen size, and then just middle mouse click to move this. All right, I'm going to go ahead, and I think this reference is pretty good. And just so you can see it better for the video, I'm going to line these up just a little bit here, and then I'll pan across and I'll zoom in. So let's maybe do this size view. And let's go back to our Ellie model. All right, so here's our character. And we have our pure ref here. Now, I'm actually moving this by just clicking the right mouse button, so because this takes a little bit of navigating. And sometimes, again, remember I mentioned going between my and Blender. Even going between this and Blender can kind of throw you off, but eventually you'll get it. So we have this pose library. I'm going to just shift it up a little bit here. Now, if you don't see pose here and you don't see these pose options, hit A and then hit tab. Now, remember before I went to edit and then project settings. Let me get this out of the way. And for input, I think it was key mapping. I hit tab for pie menu. The reason this is good is because if you go to if your model for some reason is in object mode and you're like clicking on stuff and you're like, why isn't it doing anything Dr. DeMargin was saying? So like I'm going to hit N here and you're like, where's all the options are missing or whatever. You just want to hit tab and make sure you're in pose mode for this model. Now there's a couple things. These legs are in something called inverse schematic or IK, and they have IK handles. So if I click this middle, like this hip controller here, and then I'm just going to hit T to bring up these transpose options. If I move this down, you can see, I'm going to hit G here, just kind of move this freely, that the feet stick to the ground. And that's what inverse kinematics does. It allows you this option of having your feet, or the hands are also in inverse kinematics, where they're kind of like in this sticking pose. So you can see the hand is here. If I select this, I can move it around and those hands are also sticking. What I tend to do for a walk cycle is I animate the arms in FK, which is forward kinematic, which means you can move them freely, and I'll show you that in a second, and the legs in IK. So let me show you how to just set up your model to switch that. So I'm going to take Cloud Rig here. Well, a couple things. First, if you click down here, let me go ahead and close this out too. The way you do that is I right click on this and I do join areas. Now when I say this, do you see how there's an edge here and it has this instructions for the rig? I'm going to right click on this edge and go join areas and just go down. You can see here that I have these layers. Now these layers correspond with, let me hit an N to hide this, but with these handles or these controllers that are viewable on our Ellie model. So I'm going to hide this. I'm just going to hide all of these just for a second, because you can animate the face that way. And let me move this up a little bit. Looks like I got all of them hidden. And really, we're going to be using 1 and just 2, and that's really it. Now, if you turn on 3, or I think it was 4 was the face, yeah. 4, what's cool about this is, and we'll do this later, but you can actually animate the facial stuff. You know, like the eye, things like that. But as of now, that's going to get a little bit more advanced. And we're going to get into some character stuff and all that good stuff. But for now, we just want to focus on this walk. All right, so you're probably really eager to start animating. So I'm going to go ahead and hit N to bring this up. And what I want to do is go down to Cloud Rig, and I want to switch these arms so that when I rotate this, right, and let's go ahead and turn this on so we just put the arms by the side of our character. We're going to go ahead and turn on mirroring. You can see this little butterfly here. I'm going to hit X. Now, if I hit R and I rotate this, you're like, well, why isn't the arm following that? Well, the thing is, we're still in that IK mode where the arm is stuck. So if I go to FK, IK switch, and I take this left arm and I move it all the way down, you can see that the arm, the left arm rotated down to match that. Let's go and move this to the right arm. So now I can move the arms down to the side, and let's go ahead and, let me undo that for a second. I want to select this shoulder here. I'm going to move the shoulders up just a little bit, and then move these down. So something like this. And then I'm going to move them back. Now I'm hitting R to rotate. You can also select this option here to give you a little bit more granular control of the arms, which is what I might switch between. The way you can rotate inside of here is if you hit R, it rotates depending on the view that you're in. So I'm in the side view there. I'm in the front. So it's kind of a cool thing to get used to, just hitting R for rotate and doing it that way. Same thing with this. I'm going to select these little wrist handles here, and I'm going to hit R and just give it a little bend here. A little bend in the wrist. So there we have our character with the hands on her side. I'm going to hit N. And, you know, just kind of, there's our character in a standing pose. Now, this sometimes is where I actually like to start off with on frame 0. And then in frame 1, I create an animation like a gesturing or jumping or whatever the initial pose of the acting piece. So that's it for this first video. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's save this. And let me move this out of the way. And just save it as Ellie_walk before, so that it doesn't auto-save over your initial model. I'm just saving it in a folder called Character Walk Cycles. And what we'll do in the next video is we'll start to pose out that first pose.